Stories about mom and dad, or particularly when they were younger.
Are you talking about Grandma and Grandpa or Bill and Audrey?
Bill and Audrey.
Well, just in general, I haven't, heard any, comments. I mean, we've in general, but just how important, their faith and coming up through and saying the rosary and with them being the greatest generation. How often I would hear that the grandparents and the aunts and the uncles and all for these sweet Jesus, whether it was a good day or a bad day, that phrase fits. Wearing, the scapular and miraculous medal and just how much, their faith held the family together and how obvious that is. And how important, tradition and family and faith is. It really is the binder.
What was Dad like when he was a kid? Those of you remember before he got married, went in the service.
Uncle Bill when he was young.
I wasn't around.
Any stories about him?
I say my dad always thought that he was, because I think Dad was born in 50 and Bill was pretty young, and I think he just remembered, he and my Uncle Albert just remembered it always being fun when Uncle Bill came around, but because he was I guess a teenager at that time.
I was gonna say they moved away, so right after we were married, or when did they move? And so we really didn't get to
Any
see.
memories of him when he was still on the farm, or?
Well, I didn't know him then, but
Yeah.
When we were young, he was in the Army for several years,
Okay.
but either right before the Army or right after. I don't remember what phase was that when he
I
lived
don't
with
remember
us.
until after the Army.
Uh-huh.
I don't remember.
Okay.
Because before the Army, we lived on Manse Avenue, and I remember the war, and it happened to, whenever you heard the sirens blow, my dad had to go get his white helmet on and take off out the door, and Mom would sit in the big chair. I was the baby, and I would sit in her lap, and the other ones would sit around the chair. We'd say the rosary, block everything off, turn off all the lights, pitch black, and we'd be praying until we saw Daddy come back in again.
What was he doing?
He was an air raid warden.
Air raid warden.
And what
Okay.
they
With
would
a
do,
white hat, big white hat, metal.
Yeah.
And
what
he
they had to do was the men had to go out and go to the nearest, it was a fire station where they all met. And if it was a real dangerous thing, I guess they had to equip them to fight. And if there wasn't anything going on, the other ways, they just walked around the neighborhoods, made sure
All
there was
all the
black.
lights were
All the
Everything
houses.
was black. Otherwise, they had to get fined if they had any
Yeah, it was
lights
called a
on.
blackout.
Right.
Tonight's a blackout, or today's a blackout.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you, everybody. You just,
I have one story, something about Dad and he got gas rations for certain vehicles. And I'm not sure how it went, but he was able to get 2 rations because he worked in a defense industry. So he could take Mom out. Or something like that. No, that wasn't until 1950.
yeah,
But
it was after the war when they were dating.
yeah, but he could get to 2 different jobs.
You might have taken other girls out.
Yeah, I'm thinking that too.
Well, with those ration stamps, my mother would always make jelly and things like that, so she needed sugar. And Grandpa had the chickens, so she didn't need the meat coupon ration stamps as much. She would trade her meat ration stamps in for sugar so that she could make her jelly, and Grandpa would supply us with the chickens that we would kill in the basement.
She traded them with the neighbors.
Yeah, with
And
neighbors.
they loved it,
Yes,
because they wanted the meat.
they wanted meat and she wanted sugar.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're just friends, the people that knew her.
Yes, get stuff sitting.
My tail's getting sore.